Awesome. I think we got everyone in there. So I want to welcome everyone today to our continuing series on our trainings here at ETHOSystems. I'm Stuart Blumenthal, as I mentioned, and today we're going to be talking about work in process best practices. And the best person to do that is Olivia Romer, who's one of our senior Sage Intacct consultants. And she has put this webinar together on how to figure out WIP and some of the best practices around that, because when we talk to everyone in the field in the industry today, everyone wants a WIP report, and I will joke around, everyone wants a different looking WIP report. But I want to make sure that we talk about some of the best practices for Sage Intacct. So without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Olivia.
Thanks so much, Stuart. Good day, everyone. Thank you so much for attending today's webinar. I'm going to go ahead and get started. So just a couple housekeeping things. This presentation will be about 30 minutes long. All the phone lines are muted. And if anyone has questions, if you can please type them into the question box. We will have, Stuart will be monitoring that for any questions. And then if you want a copy of this presentation, just let us know. All right, so on today's agenda, we're going to review some of the best practices in Sage Intacct as it relates to creating a WIP schedule. We're going to review some report examples of WIP schedules, and then we're going to have some opportunity for question and answer. All right, so the first thing is estimates. So in order to have a good WIP schedule, we need to make sure that we have two components that are really inside Sage Intacct, and that would be estimates as well as contracts. So the estimates is going to be the cost side of your project. So it will be the total estimated costs that it's going to take you to complete your project. So a couple things that you want to do is first you want to make sure that projects estimates inside Sage Intacct is configured properly. And I'm going to show a demonstration of that. You'll also want to make sure that your estimates are posting to the appropriate project estimate budget repository. And then lastly, you want to make sure that any report you create is pulling from the proper budget repository. And if you're creating a WIP report inside the interactive custom report writer, that it's pulling the correct estimate information. All right, so the first thing is I am going to show you my screen here. Okay, so I have Sage Intacct open. And when I go into the projects application, you will notice that I have project estimates here. So when this is initially set up, I'm going to come here to the setup screen. There are a couple things that need to be done for project estimates. So under here, under project estimates, you will see types. Types do need to be set up. And within a type, you tell Sage Intacct what type of workflow items you want to see within that estimate. So in this example, we want to see anything that's an original estimate, anything that comes over as a revision, and any approved change. So that would be any approved change orders would also be included in this estimate type of current estimate. Okay, so that is very important because that is going to be used for your various types of reports within Sage Intacct. Okay, so as you can see here, you can have as many different estimate types as you would like. We have here with some forecasting in them, things of that nature. So you can set up as many different as you like, and they can include various types of workflows as you desire. All right. Once you have that set up, then you're going to actually create those project estimates. So I'm going to come here. I'm in an example of a multi-entity environment. and I'm going to go into a project estimate for one of these entities. So as you see here, I've got multiple project estimates entered into the software. So we'll go ahead and we'll open one of these. We'll go ahead and open this one here. Okay, so what you can either do is you can have Sage Intacct automatically create an estimate ID, or you can automatically type in your own estimate ID, and that could be an alphanumeric character, whichever you desire. You'll pick your project that you want this estimate to be for, and you're also going to pick that estimate type. This is based on that list of estimate types that we created earlier in the setup screen. Then we're going to enter in an estimate date. And we want to check this box here for primary if this is going to be our primary estimate, meaning that this is going to be the estimate we're going to use for job cost reporting and the estimate we're going to use for our work in progress schedule. The next piece here is this integrate with general ledger. In here, what we want to do is we want to make sure that this posts to GL budgets. And then within that, we have a particular budget ID that we are selecting. Real quick, inside our budgets application, under budget repositories, you'll see that I set up a budget for the project estimate. And if I come in here, you will notice that it has this checkbox selected stating that this particular budget repository is a project estimate budget repository. So you will need to make sure that you do have one of these budget repositories set up in your system for this to work properly. Okay, so I have selected that one here. Then you have a choice of how you want this to post to the budgets area within Sage Intacct. So right now we have selected whatever period the estimate date is. So in this example, this budget would post as of January 1st, 2020. You also have other options like the project begin date, or you can have it post as of the effective date of each line on the estimate as well. So typically, if you have an estimate that is constantly changing with change orders, you might want to select this third option. And the reason why is because if you wanted to run, let's say, a WIP report in the past, you would be able to see the estimate at that point in time, because change orders and revisions that you've made, they would have an effective date, and therefore because they are date driven, you would be able to run these reports with what the contract looked in the past as opposed to how the project estimate looks today. Okay, so this is my recommendation for the best practice to have a most accurate WIP schedule. The next option is entering in your actual estimate here. So as you can see, all the workflow type currently is original, and that is because this is our original project estimate that we have for this project. As we enter in change orders, they will automatically be added below, and they will have a workflow type of approved change. Okay, if it's a pending change order, it will have pending change, and so on and so forth. Then I'll put in my cost code, my cost type. If I'm using quantities in my estimates, I will enter those in, and a cost rate. Otherwise, I can just enter in a gross amount per cost code and cost type. Okay. All of this data can also be imported into Sage Intacct. Okay, and you can find these imports in the company setup area under setup, under import data. And if you come down here to the projects area, you will see import estimates. So there's two different types, but I recommend using the import estimate with WBS. You can just click on this and then you can download the template. Okay, once you have entered in your estimate, you're going to go ahead and save that estimate. And now that estimate is available. You will notice that some of these estimates do have the primary checkbox checked and the posted GL budgets checked. That means that these are the primary ones. You can have as many different estimates as you want for a particular project, but only one of them can be your primary project estimate. So if you're going to import your estimates, you can import them here. Again, there are two options, but I recommend using the import estimate with WBS. All right, moving forward. The next piece that I recommend is making sure you have your contracts set up properly, because again, this is going to be a primary information used on a work in progress schedule. So if you are using project contracts, you want to make sure that project contracts is configured properly. These project contracts should post to the project contracts budget. So similar to the project estimates, there is a specific budget repository for project contracts. Third, you want to confirm that the reports are pulling from the proper budget repository. And if you're using order entry contracts, you want to make sure that that is configured properly. And if you're using order entry contracts, then you want to make sure that any reports you create are pulling from the appropriate user-defined books that have been set up. So let me show you an example of that here. Okay, so I'm in Sage Intacct again. And the first thing I'm going to do is go to budgets and go to my budgets repository. And you can see that I have set up a project contract budget repository here. And you'll notice the checkbox is checked for project contracts because this is the budget repository that I am going to use for all project contracts. All right, the next thing is in the projects application. Again, if I go to setup, you will notice that over here to the right is some information for project contracts. So the first thing I want to do is set up some project contract types. So I have two different project contract types in this example, a progress billing and a time and material billing. Okay, at a minimum, this is what needs to be set up in order to use project contracts. Okay, then from here in the All tab of the Projects application, you will see your project contracts. So if I click on it, whoops, I need to be in the specific entity. Okay, you will see I have two project contracts set up. I have a progress billing and a time and material one. Okay, so in this particular example, when you set up a project contract, first thing you're going to do is you're going to put some basic information about that project contract. You're going to put the project contract date. You're going to put the type of project contract it is. And then you want to make sure under this Integrate with GL tab that you do have this project contract posting to the GL budgets. Similar to the project estimates, you want to pick the posting period in which this project contract will post to the budgets area of Sage Intacct. So whether it's as of the project begin date, the contract date, or the line dates themselves. Again, similar to the project estimate, my recommendation for best practice is to use the effective date of the line. So again, if you wanted to run historical reports, you could see what the contract looked like 3 months ago versus today. Okay. All right. So then down below, you'll enter in your different project contract lines. And then you can see here that it does give you a total of all your lines, so you can confirm that that information is correct. Similar to the project estimate, you can import your project contracts as well. And you can also find these templates in the import data section under projects, project contracts. Oh, whoops. One other thing I do want to share that I forgot about. If you are using contracts in order entry, just make sure that these are configured properly and that any report that you are using is pointing to the correct user-defined book within Sage Intacct for reporting purposes. If you have any questions about that, you can reach out to your Sage Intacct consultant, or we would be happy to help you with that as well. Okay, so then moving on, I want to show you a couple of examples of some work in progress schedules. So here is an example of a work in progress schedule. This one is out of the Interactive Report Designer. So in here, as you can see, this particular one has a lot of different information on it. It's got the status of the job. It's got the total budget, which again, this is coming from that project estimate. It's got cost to date, percentage of completion. This estimated revenue, this is pulling directly from the project contract area, or if you're using order entry contracts, it's pulling from there, whichever you choose to use, or maybe it's a combination thereof. And then it's doing some calculations for earned revenue, over and under billings, gross profit, and things of that nature. Next example is the WIP schedule that has been created as a standard report within Sage Intacct's construction module. So here is an example of what that looks like. So you can see, again, it's got that contract amount, which is coming from either project contracts or order entry, depending on what you choose. The cost to date, it has some costs at completion here, your estimated profit, billings to date, and it's calculating over and under billings as well. Okay, I also have another example here that I'd like to show you. Now, this example that I'm about to show you is a WIP schedule that we created here at Ethos. Okay, and this one is created in the financial statement designer within Sage Intacct. So here, this particular WIP schedule that I created breaks everything out between in progress jobs and completed jobs. Again, I'm pulling my revised contract because this is a financial report. I'm pulling this information from that budget repository. So if you recall earlier in our webinar, we talked about the project contract budget repository and the project estimate budget repository. That is where I am pulling these two amounts here for the contract and the estimate onto this financial report. Okay, then I'm calculating gross profit and gross profit percentage. I'm pulling in total billings to date as well as total costs. And then based on that, I'm calculating revenue earned on this particular project as well as over under billings. In this particular work in progress schedule, I am calculating what the prior year revenue earned was, as well as the total revenue earned in this current year. Similar to other reports within Sage Intacct, anywhere that you see blue, you can click on that and then it will give you the general ledger detail of this particular cost item. So this is showing you the total cost for this report, which is this 386,000, which does tie to this total here. Okay. Also too, if you click on the job itself, it will take you to the project screen. So if there was something that you needed to change, you definitely could. Some other items that I suggest possibly adding to your work in progress schedule is the project manager, or perhaps the estimator on the project, or potentially both. And then you can have the report sort by that different criteria as well. If you have multiple offices or locations or divisions within your company, another good practice is to create a work in progress schedule that separates out by those different divisions or locations so you can see how they are performing. Another tip that I will recommend is to make sure that all billings and costs are done in a timely manner. Without accurate data within Sage Intacct, you will not get accurate financial data to calculate your earned revenue on your work in progress schedule. So whether that be accruing costs if you're not receiving bills in a timely manner, making sure that every month a billing has been created for in progress jobs if you're able to do so. These things are very important for the accuracy and making sure that your revenue contracts and your project estimates are always up to date. If they're not up to date, then the revenue calculation is not going to be an accurate one. So that was just a few of my tips and best practices for creating and utilizing a work in progress schedule within Sage Intacct. So now is the question and answer portion of our webinar. So if you have any questions, if you could please enter them into the question box, and then we'll go ahead and answer those questions for you.
Point here, I've been able to answer I've been able to answer all the questions through the chat in the back end. So, and a few of you have asked for the PowerPoint, so I should be sending that out shortly. So, Olivia, I think you've answered, you were so thorough that we were able to answer it all together.
Okay, great. I'm happy to hear that. Okay, well, thank you so much for attending today's session. If you would like to talk to us about helping you create your own custom work schedule, we'd be happy to do so. Either reach out to your Ethos Sage Intacct consultant or to us, and then we can help you get that created or implemented within your organization. So thank you so much for your time today, and we appreciate your attendance.
Thank you for doing this. Have a great day. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Bye, everyone.